Welcome to Outrage Astrology. My name is Mike.
And I'm Brittany.
Where all your greatest astrological education fantasies are delivered for you in our delightfully biting format. How are you, Brittany?
Or you feel abused at the end of it. We don't know which.
Yeah. What are we talking about today?
Mars. We're talking about Mars.
That's right. Thank you for jogging my memory. We are talking about Mars today, and its importance in the natal horoscope. We're talking specifically about modern psychological astrology today. We're not going very much into the predictive elements. We're not going into the relationship elements of astrology. This is just how Mars operates in just basic vanilla modern astrology.
Yeah, in your natal chart.
Yeah. The cool thing about Mars is, in most different schools of astrology across the world, I think it's really interesting that Mars will have the same meaning in like Vedic astrology as it will in Western astrology or Mayan astrology or even like the astrology of the Lapland people of northern Finland. It's interesting. Mars is aggressive. Mars is rough. Mars is Ares, which is the god of war in Greek mythology.
Mars is how you fuck and how you fight.
Yes.
Can I get a t-shirt?
Yeah.
I want a t-shirt.
Mars, at its core, is the last vestiges of animal instinct left in man. It is our ego drive. It is how we get what we want, whether we want to procreate or we want to succeed. Or, hey, that bitch just got the last fucking, on sale sweater in the bargain bin at Ross. I'm going to fucking punch her down and get it for myself. That's Mars. That's Mars acting in your life. So, what do you, like, whenever you're looking at a natal chart, Brittany, you do a lot of readings, correct?
Yeah.
So, what do you usually, like, how do you usually interpret Mars individually? Like, what are you looking at when you see Mars? What are you looking for?
Well, I'm always going to look at it as far as where in the chart it's oriented first. Is it close to an angle? Is it in an angular house? And then, that gives me an idea of how active it is. If it's, it's sitting in a cadent house, far from the angle, it's a less prominent Mars. So that's the first thing I'm going to notice. I'm going to notice what sign it's in and how it's aspected. But there's particular signs that I don't want to see it in as much, personally.
Which one you're talking about? Well, of course, Mars is in its domicile in Aries and in Scorpio. Mars traditionally rules those signs. It's exalted in Capricorn. It's in its fall in Taurus, and then it's in its detriment in Libra, correct?
I think you listed too many of those there in the beginning.
What do you mean? I got it right.
Huh?
I got it right.
Okay. So Mars, what you're talking about is that Mars functions better or more Mars-like in certain signs than in others. So like my Mars being in Libra, it doesn't function like a typical out there fighting Mars. It takes a roundabout path to get what it wants.
But even if you have your Mars in a sign that doesn't do so well in traditionally, you can look to the aspects to see how it operates. Like your Mars in particular is very well aspected. In fact, one of the most exact aspects in your chart is Mars trining Jupiter at 9 degrees. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
So it's not all about whether that's what really bothers me is people, when they first start getting into astrology and they first start looking at natal charts, they put so much emphasis on the sign placement that it kind of distorts the interpretation of so like even though like my Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, for instance, and so is yours, but it's actually, with the exception of that Pluto thing it's doing, it's actually well aspected. It's making a quintile to Saturn. It's making a sextile to Neptune. Like it's pretty strongly aspected, so it doesn't operate as bad as it could be.
To me, the worst thing about your Venus is that it's sitting in your 6th house.
That's debatable whether you're going from the traditional Hellenistic field of study or if you're going from the modern astrology side.
I don't know that I like it either way. I can make an argument for either way why that's challenging for you.
Why? I obsess over my day-to-day routine and work. I think that's a great thing to do.
You do, but you also like will lay down for people that you shouldn't lay down for because you're such a nice person and you have this like serving, like I'm going to help you and I'm going to do this for you and I'm going to like you can take that too far. And I see it in you and I'm like, no, you
Okay.
need to tell them.
All right. We're not talking about Venus.
Okay, we're talking about Mars. We'll get back to Mars. But your point is that where it's situated and how it's aspected are what we would look at before we're definitely going to look at the signs and hyper focusing on that. Yeah.
Mars is a really aggressive element in somebody's chart. Traditional Hellenistic astrology considers it a malefic. And depending on whether the chart is a day chart or a night chart, its issues related to being a malefic are,
stronger.
Yeah. If it's a day chart, like I have learned to incorporate Hellenistic astrology into my basic natal chart interpretations.
Finally.
I love it. It's
Thanks
actually
to
I do
me.
it for everything. I really do. I've begun incorporating Uranian astrology elements, Hellenistic astrology elements. I can't subscribe to one specific discipline, but I incorporate it all. And when you're looking at a chart, if it's a day chart, if you see the sun above the horizon, then Mars is considered to be the main malefic, which means whatever house it is placed in, it is more destructive than it is beneficial. Now, if it's a night chart, Mars is still a malefic, but it then is more constructive. It makes the issues related to the house that it's placed in difficult, but constructive overall.
Yeah. And just if you're curious what the malefic is, the other way around, Saturn is your other malefic. So if you have a night chart, Saturn is your primary malefic. And if you have a day chart, Mars is your primary malefic, and vice versa.
I even do that with Davison charts now too. Like I'll look if it's a day chart or a night chart in the Davison. And if it's a day chart, I look at where Mars falls, and that's where a lot of the biggest challenges facing the couple, the epicenter will be on the house that Mars falls in.
Now, I want to put my plug in here for me when I look at a chart, even if Mars is the primary malefic planet, if Saturn is sitting closer to an angle, I'm going to put more weight on Saturn, even if Mars is, because the angles, something being on the angles, I don't want to say it trumps everything, but it is a primary driver. You are going to notice somebody having a planet on an angle first.
Yes. Actually, that's actually what sparked the whole idea for this podcast, is because Mars, I mean, you were talking about Saturn, but Mars specifically, when it is on an angle, that's the cusp of the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, or the 10th house.
And we're talking within 4 degrees.
Yes. It makes that part of your personality extremely visible. It's because those 4 points are where your chart interacts with the outside world directly. Mm-hmm. And or even if it's in an angular house. Mars by nature is considered to be a destructive element. And I think that has a lot to do with societal conditioning, because we are sort of led to believe that anything that is overtly aggressive is meant to be, I guess, looked down upon and suppressed. So somebody that has a very powerfully placed Mars, they will act out in a variety of different ways because they are utilizing that aggressive, animalistic, instinctual part of their personality in a very strong way.
Yeah.
So you really like for instance, Mars is the main malefic in my chart, and it falls in the 7th house. So that area of my chart is where I'm going to put forth most of my aggression, and because it's a day chart, and it usually has very negative consequences.
So I want to put a pin in this for a second because I want to come back around to it, because your chart is a great example of how Mars can function differently on the descendant and in the 7th house. There's kind of two ways that I see it manifest. So can we put a pin in it and go and start at the ascendant and go around and look at the angles?
Yes, because I know somebody that has Mars conjunct. I know 2 people that have Mars conjunct the ascendant, and yeah, I got some stories.
Right. Yeah, those when you have such an aggressive part of your personality on your ascendant, and to some degree in your 1st house, but specifically on your ascendant, that is going to make that aggression, that temper, that passion, that whatever it is, come out much more strongly.
Much more readily. They wear their aggression on their sleeve.
Yeah. And typically you do see the aggressive side of it more. If it were a more intimate relationship, you might see, or if you know that person better, you might see their sexual nature much more readily. But I think as like society as a whole, this is just like somebody you work with or an acquaintance, you're going to see that aggressive nature come out.
Very quick temper, very quick to fight, quick to get into an argument. They can alienate people around them very quickly. You have to be careful. However, it does give a lot of drive to the personality. Athleticism is really easy for them. They can keep up really fast. They can solve problems very fast. They can jump.
Something interesting, like people who have Mars on the ascendant, I found have most of the time will have a scar on their face, because it rules, your face, your body. You'll see, or a prominent scar on their body, but a lot of times on their face. A lot of these people have been in super bad car accidents or some other like sporting accident, because it's just so go and violent, and it's related to their ascendant, their body.
Okay, so first story, one of my used to be a very good friend. He has Mars and Virgo conjunct the ascendant exactly. And you were very right about that. He was in the military, and he was in a Humvee, and it got blown up by an IED in Iraq, and it left him with a permanent twitch on his face. Also, very extremely aggressive personality. He also had the moon in Scorpio, no less. But I remember I was at a restaurant with him, and we were walking out of the restaurant, and he held the door open for this guy to walk out before us. So he was, I guess, trying to be polite. The guy walked out the door and didn't say thank you. And that's where the situation all just went to shit right there. He walked up to him. He's like, hey, you asshole. You didn't even say fucking thank you. I just held the door open for you. And he tried to start a fight with this dude right there. And then later that night, we were at Waffle House, and me and him were just talking, and I guess I said something he didn't like. He bitch slapped me in the middle of Waffle House. Now, I bitch slapped him back, but...
Because at that point, was your Mars in opposition to his?
Actually, it was square to his.
Okay.
He bitch slapped me in the middle of Waffle House.
That's right. It would have been opposition. Sorry. Yeah.
Squared. 90-degree angle.
And square. Sorry. I wouldn't get my words confused. Yeah. But
father also has Mars in the 1st house. It's not conjunct the ascendant. It's close, but it's not quite there. And it's conjunct the moon. And my dad is known for starting arguments, known for being very abrasive. One time, me and him got into a small argument while we were working, and he threw a pair of Kleins at me, which is a very, for those who don't know, it's a relatively heavy tool used for cutting wire. He threw it at me because I made a joke about him. I'm just saying, like, it's an aggressive placement. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people. But if with somebody that has that placement, if you're looking for a fight, you're gonna find it with them.
Yeah, they're not gonna back down.
Yeah.
So Mars on the IC, the lowest point in your chart, is kind of interesting to me. It's like it's sort of a tricky thing. So this is where we come from. So a lot of times these people have really like loud, aggressive families, even if they aren't necessarily that way. A lot of these people are in the military too. because it's your family, and Mars is, like war. It's like your military family. Or they are from a military, like they are in the military, or they have a military family. Maybe they were like an army brat and they moved around a lot. But they're super involved with their family. These are the ones that, like, their family is the only ones that can piss them off. Like, they're not really angry people. Like, you would think, like, Mars squaring.
They take their aggression, and they take their aggression is there, but it's very private. And I've noticed this about Mars conjunct the IC as well as Mars conjunct the descendant. They save, or in the angular houses at the bottom half of the fourth house or the seventh house, they save their aggression and unleash it on the people that are closest to them.
So, yeah, I think that's more true with the descendant. But again, that's one I feel like can play out two ways. But like this Mars at the IC, a lot of times they have a family member that they are always kind of at war with. They always like seem to are in a fight with. Like a good friend of mine, it's like there's always some crap going on with his mother where she's like kind of getting in his way and aggravating him, and that's the only thing that can really like ruffle his feathers. Nothing else does. Something else interesting about this individual is they are like a cleaning maniac. Now they're also very heavy on Virgo placement, so that makes sense. But it's the busyness at home. It's like have to be doing something at home. They put a lot of effort into their family, their house. They may exercise at home. They, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is a relatively emotional placement because the fourth house is part of the emotional triplicity in terms of the water houses, and they expend most of their ego drive in a private, home-centric environment around their family, around their house. So it's not as over. I think of all the Mars placements in terms of the angles, I think the conjunct the fourth house is the least destructive.
Yeah, they're very protective people of their family, particularly if it falls on the fourth house on that side. Like they're very protective and like want to have their family secure, not only physically but like financially. I mean, they'll do whatever they can to keep everybody sort of wrapped up.
Yeah, Mars on the descendant or in the seventh house.
Yeah,
I'm an expert with this one, but
I know you are. So I'll say my opinion and then I'll just let you talk.
No. You're speaking from a more objective standpoint, because if I use my own objective opinion, I'm going to be speaking about it through the entirety of my chart.
Yeah, you integrate. So just taking this one piece, I don't think these people are particularly angry or temperamental people like the ascendant people are. They can take it out on their closest partners, but what I see more is they suppress it and they choose people around them to sort of fight it for them, or they choose very aggressive partners. Like
I saw an article the other day, and they're like, well, if you have Mars in the seventh house, you may choose a marriage partner that has strong Aries placements. And I was like, oh, God, no, please, no, God, no. That's like an inside thing, but...
So fun fact, now we all know that Mike is not a dom.
Fuck you.
Okay, but you guys do tend to choose people that are more assertive or more aggressive than you are. And
which is saying something, because I'm pretty fucking assertive.
Yeah, I mean you are, but you also aren't an angry person. Like, it takes a lot to actually make you angry. When you get to that point, it comes out, but it's not a first thing you're gonna do. You might like rant about it and then you're over it in a minute.
Yeah. That's me personally. That's not okay. So when you have Mars in the seventh house, you tend to exert your ego drive, the aggressive part of your nature, in your partnerships. So yes, you do tend to choose people that are rather aggressive, people that can keep up with you, and there can be a little domination games in relationships too.
Yeah. You guys are, I think, also more typically the pursuers in relationships. Even if you're not more dominant, I think that you guys put a lot of effort into your relationships, like going after people or trying to find activities, trying to do stuff.
My mom has Mars and Aries in the 7th house, and she will hunt you down. That's what my dad used to tell me. He's like, my mom, she just wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
She was like 7 years younger than me, and I didn't want it, but it just happened. She wouldn't go away.
It didn't want it. What a lie.
It was a lie. But
such a lie.
Yeah. You assert your ego in the context of relationships a lot, because the house is where that is the area of life that energy is coming through the strongest. Now, it is really, really important to check out the house placement of Mars. I know we haven't gotten to the 10th house, but we will. That's the last, the medium collate. That's the last one. But when you see Mars in a particular house, you need to look at the aspects, because if there are a lot of negative aspects being made to Mars, or if Mars is just really heavily aspected, because even a bunch of positive aspects being made to Mars, just coming from all directions, is still going to make it super strong, and Mars is always going to be an aggressive placement. So too much energy being fixated on Mars is going to be a problem, regardless of whether it's positive or negative aspects. If you see a heavily aspected Mars in a particular house, especially an angular house, there is going to be a lot of problems associated with that house. A lot of anger within that particular area of life. The guy that bitch slapped me at Waffle House, he had Mars on the ascendant. There was not any negative aspects being made to Mars. There was just an overwhelming abundance of positive aspects being made to Mars. Overwhelming. So it was a very strong Mars. But still, Mars at its core is a malefic energy. It's an aggressive energy. It can be destructive if it's not, managed right, especially through like exercise or whatever. So, too much energy placed on Mars, it's a big red flag when you're looking at somebody's chart. All right?
Right.
Am I right?
You're totally right.
All right. So, Mars on the MC or in the 10th house.
This one is also a really good one, I think. Kind of like with the IC. Yeah, these are the people that are ready to go out into the world and get it done. They have a lot of drive, a lot of ambition, and I think they're more easily recognized for that because it's in such a visible place in their chart.
Yes, but if it's a day chart and Mars is heavily aspected, they can be really, really aggressive with their ambitions. They can walk right over you.
Yeah.
They can climb up your back to the top.
Yeah.
But under the right conditions, it can make someone very ambitious. It actually usually makes somebody very ambitious. But if it's a day chart and Mars is aspected a certain way, you can operate in a way that is so ambitious you can turn people against you.
Well, and it depends what your ambitions are too. I mean, if it's aspected poorly and you have a lot of other creepy stuff going on in your chart, I mean, you can do a lot of really nasty things with ambition. Or you can be very successful and, prominent, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, like let's say it's a night chart, and they have most of their planets, and most of their planets are probably like on the left side of the chart, so self-starters, and Mars is receiving a lot of relatively positive aspects, maybe one negative aspect, but nothing bad. It can make somebody that actually really gets things done in terms of furthering their career and furthering their ambitions, but it can go the opposite way too. You have to look at everything when it comes to astrology. You can't just take one placement and say that's it, that's how it is, because you
can't even take one placement and say that that's what this Mars means, because without knowing, like you're talking about, you're looking at everything having to do with that Mars, where it's, where's the ruling, where's the like Scorpio, where's the Aries in the chart, and then you look at the Mars. Because it's the ruler of those, and looking at the aspects, it's a lot. You have to look at it as a whole piece.
Yeah. So
Okay, that goes without saying. We lecture about that a lot, but it goes without saying. So Aries, Mars.
Yeah. Aries, Mars will fight. They're very aggressive when it comes to sexual things. They have a reputation for being like two pump chumps. They like it when you pull their hair. One girl told me that all Aries Mars have really veiny dicks. That's
How
what
many,
I was told
how
that.
many people do you have to be with before you can make a call like that is what I want to know.
Well, she works in the sex industry.
Okay. Then she probably knows what she's talking about. Duly noted.
She definitely utilizes her Lilith.
Yeah.
Or that feminine.
Duly noted.
Mars and Taurus.
Isn't that this whole like
Lazy.
I'm not good. Well, yeah. I mean, but then they stick with it, right? They see things once they get started on it, they're gonna see it out.
Okay, yeah, so that's really interesting. If you see somebody with a lot of fire in their chart, but they have Mars and Taurus, takes them a little while to get going, but once they get going, they do not stop. Once they get angry, they don't. There's no 0 to 90 with them, and there's no 90 back to 0 with them either. Everything's a slow build and a slow burn. So, I mean, it can be positive. They like to sleep a lot.
I like to sleep a lot.
They like to eat a lot.
So Gemini Mars people.
Oh my god.
I can't.
They usually like me because their Mars falls in my first house, so they're usually trying to like insert their verbiage into my body.
What does verbiage mean, Mike?
Shut up. Just shut up.
At least you pronounced it right. You know, my mom gets on to me about pronunciation of things, and she's like, "It's not verbiage, it's verbiage."
Where's her Mars at?
I'll go look. I don't memorize charts like you do, you know.
Okay. Anyway, Mars and Gemini, they can be really, really cutting with their words. They can verbally destroy you if they need to, and they tend to be kind of.
Oh, yeah, her Mars is in Scorpio. Why did I not know that off the top of my head? Because I'm always bitching about how her Mars conjuncts my moon and how she knows how to piss me off. See, I should have known that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mars and Leo people. Even though I have a moon in Leo, Mars and Leo people make.
Justin's Mars is in Leo.
It's probably not conjunct my moon though. It's probably just squaring my Venus Pluto conjunction. Anyway,
So Mars and Leo people are really showy about their, like physically showy about their affection.
You know what pisses me off about Mars and Leo people? By the way, we skipped Mars and Cancer, but Mars and Leo people.
Because nobody cares about Mars and Cancer. It's terrible.
If they're mad at you, they'll make a big scene about it, and then they're going to go get everybody else to go be mad at you too. They want to humiliate you. They want to make a spectacle out of you.
It's not my husband. My husband has never told anybody anything I've done bad unless it was like this really, there's this one specific point in time, and that's the only time he's ever done it in the 20 years I've known him.
He's also probably got respect for you.
He's just private. He just doesn't go and like tell a bunch of people about stuff, but he is very demonstrative, and being the Mars and Leo, and his son's in Leo too, hurting his pride or questioning his viewpoints because it's in his 9th house will piss him off really, really fast. Okay, we'll go back because you're right. We did. You said something about Leo, and so I just went with Leo. So Mars and Cancer people. Mars does not like to be in Cancer. It is very uncomfortable in Cancer. I feel like this is an extremely manipulative placement. I feel like that's how this comes out. It's like they're going to guilt you. They're going to cry about it. They're going to be like, why?
They cry when they're angry.
Why did you hurt me so badly? But it's not always just because they're genuinely hurt. I think a lot of times it's a means of aggression. It's to hurt you back.
I happen to know a lot of Mars and Cancer, and I've seen the manipulation, but I've also seen it come from a honest place. But generally,
I'm not saying every time they cry it's bullshit, but take it with a grain of salt.
When they get really, really angry, they get huffy and puffy, and they cry. And they're the kind of person that, like that little kid on the playground, that's like crying while they try to hit you. That's what Mars in Cancer does.
Okay, I have a grown man example, on a very micro scale of a Mars and Cancer man who I knew was angry with me, but if it had been somebody else, I wouldn't have realized that this was actual anger. So, you know, those anonymous, like you can make an anonymous comment on somebody's, like you can post it on Facebook. It's like I don't know, you know, they can say stuff, send it to you, and it's anonymous. So he had like a ton of girls who were like, "You're so cute. I wish we could get together. I wish we could be together." Yada yada yada. And he's a very good looking guy. So he's quite arrogant, I'm pretty sure. And he screenshotted all of them and posted them all to his Facebook. It was like days of this shit. And some girl commented on it about how he kept posting these. And I was like, I commented on hers, and I'm like, I said, I know, right? It's like that one guy you go on a on a date with, and he shows you all of his Tinder matches. It's like, hey, everybody, look how great I am.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah, so I was just being facetious about it, right? So he deletes them immediately and then sends me a message, and he's like, hey, I deleted all of them. You know, I'm really sorry for annoying everybody. Something to that effect. And I was like,
oh my God, I'm so bad. Everybody tell me that I'm not so bad.
Exactly. It was like, well, he was doing it to make me feel guilty that he deleted everything. I was like, you don't have to apologize to me. I was like, you do you, man. Like, I'm just giving you some shit. He's like, no, it's fine. I didn't mean to like show everybody all my Tinder matches, is how he put it. So it was like this little jab, right? That's because he wants me to feel like I hurt his feelings and feel bad about it. That's a Cancer Mars.
Virgo Mars.
What are they, angry clean?
No, you know what? I know a lot of Virgo Mars, and they'll actually square my Mars, but I don't dislike them all that much. See, my one friend that had Mars conjunct the Ascendant, that was a little extreme. But I've noticed with Virgo Mars, they're really like Jared. He's not into astrology, but so watching him work is very interesting because he works in such a methodical way. His default instinct is to organize his movements.
Does it aggravate him when you come in there and are all over the place?
You can see it on his face, but he won't say anything because he's just so damn nice.
He is.
But well, we actually do work well together. But he'll literally like stop. We can do this.
Yeah.
They're very methodical with how they exert their energy. Everything's done in a step by step kind of way. And it's really cool to watch, actually. I respect Virgo Mars quite a bit. Now, they can, they're not always clean.
No, they're not. That's not always where the practicality comes out.
They're attracted to people that are clean. Cleanliness makes them aroused. Like, ooh. Smell like Irish Spring.
I think Virgo Mars people, they just appreciate somebody who's well put together. That's yeah.
Libra Mars.
So I don't know anything about Libra Mars people.
Yeah, you don't.
Let's just skip it.
Passive aggressive.
We don't try to be.
So passive aggressive.
We don't try to be. See, here's the thing. What you perceive as us being passive aggressive is actually us trying to not get in a fight, but still articulate like what it is that's aggravating us. But it just comes out as being very passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to start a fight with you by dancing around the topic until you be. It's like they're trying to trick you into being the aggressive one because they want to be. They want to fight. They want to fight. They just don't want to start it. So they're gonna try to bounce around it and make little offhand comments here and there. And I'm not just talking about you. I know a lot of Libra Mars. It falls in my 5th house. There's usually some sort of interest.
So we also, I think, are extremely intellectually aroused.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a physical. There are people that I have come to find very attractive, that when most of the people that I've come to find really attractive are people that when I first saw them, I was very put off by their appearance. And once I get to know them, that's what does it.
Scorpio Mars. You nasty, nasty, nasty people.
They're not nasty people. They don't give a fuck if they make you mad, though. They just don't care.
Well, they'll say sorry if they care about you. Because when
they'll say sorry, but they don't care. They don't care deep in their soul.
When you have Mars in a water sign, you tend to just kind of feel your way through life. That's just it. When you have Mars in a water sign, you feel your way through life, and when they get angry, they just feel it's difficult to explain. They can hold on to grudges, not as bad as Scorpio moons, but well, tell me what you think about Scorpio Mars, because I just think that they're like super highly sexual, and
yeah,
like I remember hearing one Scorpio Mars talking about like the best way to express your sexuality: get a mattress protector and make sure you actually need it.
Scorpio Mars people are very sexual. It's true. I think it's true. In fact, people talk about Scorpio sun, they just generalize and say Scorpios are very sexual. Well, no. Like, I mean, my Mars, I'm very, very, very Scorpio. I have 5 planets in Scorpio, but my Mars is in Libra. So I don't think that I am as sexually driven as somebody with a Scorpio Mars. I think I might be a little biased with my Scorpio Mars feelings because
she's frigid, guys.
Yeah, not at all.
I know.
But whatever. But that Scorpio Mars people hit my moon, so I'm a little bit more sensitive to their tactics than maybe other people will be.
Yeah. Like I see.
But you have to realize, like Scorpio as a sign is more covert. They're not as showy and out there, so they're more likely to show their aggression. I think you'll know they're doing it, but it's not a like I'm going to punch you in the face like a Aries Mars would. It's a sucker punch to your soul, to your spirit. Like they know how to reach into your heart. Just fucking pull it out.
I know.
Yeah.
You want to cry. I've actually never been on the receiving end of the fury of a Mars and Scorpio. I've always been able to. I've always played.
Whole life.
Huh?
My whole life has been my mother's Mars is in Scorpio, so
I've always played nice with Mars and Scorpio, but they usually, because it squares my moon, so I get a little sensitive too, especially when it's in the first decanate. And
so here's the thing. A lot of times Scorpio Mars people will hurt you and they aren't trying to. I mean, I had a best friend.
Their gut reaction is just to go deep.
Yeah, I had a best friend that was her Mars was in Scorpio. It was pretty close to my moon, but it was like her favorite thing to do was to make fun of people or to like kind of be condescending or undercut. But that was her sense of humor, but it was also how she kind of felt power within herself, was to sort of cut other people down. And I think that's a less evolved kind of Scorpio Mars placement. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about Sag Mars people.
I love Sagittarius Mars.
Of course you do.
But I love myself. No, I'm kidding. I really don't. I'm a horrible person. Sagittarius Mars, when you make them mad, they will run. They literally okay. So here's the thing about Sagittarius.
Yeah,
Mars.
When you got mad at me one time, you're like, "I'm done," and you didn't talk to me for like 36 hours. Then you decided you weren't done.
Yeah. So Sagittarius Mars, when they get really, really angry, they feel like running. That's one of the great ways I could ever see to describe it. They do not want to fight. but they will. They're very honest. They can be very abrasive.
Very abrasive. If you want to know what somebody really thinks of you, go ask a Sag Mars.
Yeah, because Sag Mars, they can be really, really, really insensitive. They are more concerned with the truth than protecting your feelings, and some people respect that, and some people cannot handle that. I can make a Pisces moon freak out. I've done it before. But at the same time, they would usually do not want to fight. They love being outside. They love masculine activities. They love large animals.
Traveling.
They love traveling. I love traveling. I'm always everywhere. But if you bait them, if you make them fight, if you push them in a corner, because they're not going to want to fight, they're going to want to get the fuck away from you. But if you back them into a corner, they tend to fight very hard and very dirty.
How are they sexually?
Fucking playful. Wrestling, play fighting, throwing people into walls, laughing during sex.
Throwing people into walls. Okay.
Yeah, I've done that. I think that's fun. That whole thing where you just throw everything off the table and slam it on the ground, or cracking jokes during sex. You'd think with my Scorpio Venus conjunct Pluto, I'd be like super crazy passionate, which I am, but that Sagittarius Mars, there's such a playfulness to it. Sorry, ladies.
Sorry for throwing you into a wall.
Yeah.
They're all like writing down your email address right now.
Sorry, I like unhooked your bra and pointed and laughed at your puppy titties. I mean, and then expected you to be just fine about it.
Okay, so moving on. You should have stopped at throwing them into walls. Then they would have all been like emailing you and like asking you for readings. But then you talked about making fun of their boobs, and now none of them want to talk to you.
They'll still talk to me.
Okay.
They just might not want to take off their bra now.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one, Capricorn Mars. They have Capricorn
good workers.
They have they have a real good get her done attitude, and they can be really enthusiastic about. They can be really enthusiastic about just getting stuff done. Working out, they tend to they tend to get buff really quick when they work out, because I remember this whenever I was locked up. The individuals that had Capricorn Mars, they usually got really fit really quick while they were locked up.
Yeah, but don't be late. Like, if you're gonna date one, you need to be on time.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have sex with them, you're probably gonna want to get your calendar out, make sure that that works for everybody.
That's a little bit. Well, you know what's funny is there was one dude I knew, and I remember him telling me, he was like, "Okay, so we got the plan. I'm gonna get out of here, but then I gotta go turn myself right back in to go back into jail as soon as I get out. So I'm gonna have about 20 minutes, and so my buddy's gonna have a girl. I'm gonna sit there and get some Astro fast in the car out back, and then I'm gonna go turn myself right back in. I might smoke a little bit of ice before I go in, just to make sure I'm cheeking before I have to turn myself into the authorities." And then he's like planned everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Doing drugs, having sex in a car right outside the police station before he turned himself in, within a 20-25 minute time span. So now that you think about that, yeah, you're really right. You're probably very right.
Oh.
Aquarius Mars.
Okay.
Aquarius Mars.
So I know some Aquarius Mars, and I'm trying to think about the common threads. I really don't care for Aquarius Mars people.
I've heard that they're bad in bed. I've known quite a few. They're kinky. They can be kinky. They're more intellectual about. They're not as highly sexual.
Yeah, it is more of an intellectual placement, because being the air sign. I think they're a lot less. They're more non-committal with their energy in general. I think they usually have lots of stuff going on, lots of projects, that they need to keep busy.
When they get angry, their default is to just not cooperate. They will not You cannot tell them to do anything. They really won't get super crazy mad unless they have to, but their default is to just I will not cooperate with you. Sorry. Not changing my mind.
Yeah.
And then like 30 minutes later, once you've let them realize that you're not going to make them do anything, hey you, how are you? I had a friend who had an Aquarius Mars and it was weird. Hey you.
Hey, you. That was there.
Hey you. It's like the way he did it. Hey you. Anyway.
Hey, you. Pisces Mars. That's a kind of a weird one. Awkward energy.
Crying during sex?
No, they don't.
No, I know. I don't really. That is a weird energy. I don't really like it. It's kind of passive aggressive, like Libra. They play martyr games when they're angry. Literally playing. They use playing the victim as an aggressive tactic.
Yeah, I mean that's see, to me that's more like the Cancer. The Cancer. I think they relate better to that. I don't think they're very angry people though, in general. I think their go-to is to try to understand where the other person is coming from.
There's a reason that I don't like Pisces Mars all that much. And it's because I know two of the worst people I've ever met, they had the same aspects. They had Pisces Mars square Gemini Moon. And they were literally, you would make them upset. They would get upset. They would fly off the handle, and then everything they did was perfectly justified because they would manipulate every situation into justifying their horrible actions by, well, you made me the victim, so look what you made me do, basically type thing.
So, okay, a lot of that I think is the aspecting there because
but the Mars would trigger it because the Mars would get triggered and then it would hit the moon and then they would go crazy and do horrible things like beat up women or carve dye into my front door with a butcher knife, which happened.
That's a whole nother story there.
Yeah, it is.
You can watch our other episodes and maybe you'll figure out which story he's talking about there. But Pisces Mars, I think it's hard for them to access their anger, their true anger. And in fact, if they're going to get angry about anything, I think it is usually more of a kind of cooperative, collective energy, sort of angry, like mad for the world. You think you'd get that more with Aquarius, but I see it more with Pisces Mars people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why doesn't anybody want to go fix this horrible problem?
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
At first, I thought you were just like taking the meaning of Mars and then taking the meaning of Pisces and then just juxtaposing them together. But
like all these women posting right now about like the abortion stuff, I think they're all a bunch of like Pisces Mars people. Just gonna put that out there.
Okay.
They're angry about the rights of women.
Yeah, but you see that a lot with Mars in the 9th house as well, just so you know.
Oh, agree.
Sagittarius Mars does that too. There's a moralistic thing to it. So yeah, basically, this was us dissertating Mars. Obviously, you're going to want to do a little bit of research on your own into how your own Mars functions. You take a look at what house the Mars is in, what aspects it's being made, and then take a look at the signs. The signs that we just described, they were all colored by our own subjective experiences. But, I mean, they usually do ring true. But, of course, those are all going to be modified by the aspects and the houses. So take those little interpretations, and you always take them with a grain of salt. Because
what are we going to do next?
We're going to talk about people's relationship styles.
Oh, that sounds fun.
We're going to do.
Did you think of that just now?
I did.
Okay.
These random bursts of inspiration are just are awesome.
Okay.
So, okay, so you can contact us either through my personal email at dennis.ward32@yahoo.com or through the Outrage Astrology email, outrageastrology@gmail.com. I will have those both tagged down at the bottom. We also do accept donations to help us, continue to be able to produce phenomenal material for y'all guys. I will have a Cash App link as well as a PayPal me link down at the bottom. And we will be producing wonderful content also through my personal channel. I will be inviting various guests to talk about an array of astrological subjects. And it's been wonderful, Brittany.
It always is, isn't it? Stop doing that.
I love you.
I love you too. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll get at you next time.
This is Mike.